Imagine that you enter some kind of competition as an artist and one of your pieces gets chosen, you win an award and your name starts to grow locally and you get an invitation to join another competition or participate in another major art event in your city. And all of a sudden you have all of these people that are expecting you to create another piece or a series of pieces that have the same quality and a similar style to that previous piece of yours that won, that they loved. Now, imagine having absolutely no idea of where to even start to try to recreate something similar to the piece that you did before, which everyone loved. You didn't even give thought to your process. You were flying by the seat of your pants and you were just doing things out of whim along the way. That would be a total nightmare. Or imagine starting your own art commission service where you're going to be offering pet portraits in watercolor and you already have a couple of pieces on your art website online that people can see and contact you through. So you're starting to get clients and customers coming in asking you if you can paint portraits of their pets. And all of a sudden terror starts sinking in because you have no idea of how you ended up at the results that you're showing on your website. And now imagine knowing yourself and your process so well that you can consistently create quality pieces that have tons of yourself in them. Having honed your process so well that you're able to relax in the art creation process and enjoy that beautiful state of flow way more consistently. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining why the art creation process is just as important, if not more, than the final end product that we create. I'm going to explain what exactly the term process means in art. I'm also going to be explaining why it's so important to make that mental switch and really start acknowledging the how we do what we do, the steps we go through, as an instrumental part of not only developing our skills, but also finding our voice as artists. And to finish up, I'll provide 3 practical tips on how to actually do this. So in art, the term process refers to how we do what we do, what tools and materials we're bringing in, what steps we're going through to end up at those results, and even the thought process that we go through as we're creating our art. The way that you think as you're creating your art and how you bring in your own critical thinking skills to solve problems along the way. All of that has to do with the how. See, what's very important to understand is that there are many artists around the world who are creating art that is similar to yours. But what ultimately sets our work apart is the artist behind the work, the process that that artist went through to create that piece. Because every single artist is different. We have different brains, different hands, different inputs. And so no one's process is going to be the same. And this is a beautiful thing. The sooner we acknowledge our process and start valuing and really getting curious about our unique system that we go through and the steps that we follow to create our pieces, the sooner we're going to start honing our voice and our style is going to arrive, which is absolutely something that all of us want, right? But something that I want to make super clear is that having a process or a system to create art, it does not mean that you have a super rigid 15-step process that you always go through. Because a beautiful thing about creating art is allowing discoveries to happen along the way. And with watercolor, for example, allowing the paint to do its thing, finding that balance that works for you in terms of what you can and what you can't control, and being okay with things happening that you weren't necessarily anticipating or you didn't foresee. And oftentimes these mistakes or things that just happen along the way lead to incredible results or little effects and things that we decide to incorporate as part of the piece. But we have to find this balance between going in with a strategy and allowing things to happen along the way. Because if we don't go in with any planning or strategy at all, it's very likely that we're going to be struggling a lot along the way. We're going to make mistakes that are going to continue snowballing into larger and larger mistakes that we're not able to fix. And ultimately, we're not going to create the results that we have it in us to create. Having a process simply means that you have specific things that you do when you are planning and preparing for your art, when you are producing your art, and when you are reflecting or self-evaluating on your art. And for some of us, it might mean just doing a couple of different things in each one of these major phases of art creation, while for others, it might mean doing 7 different things in each of these phases. It all depends on ourselves and how we like to do things and the final results that we like to create. This knowledge of yourself, or your system, if you will, for creating art, this is what sets apart higher level artists from artists who are just getting started and artists who are struggling to reach that higher skill level, or even are struggling to find their voice. It's this focus on your process and your system and your personal strategy that allows you to really hone your style, your way of doing things, and this is what leads to higher quality artwork that really has yourself in it. So if you're still starting new artworks with this very general objective of just creating a beautiful masterpiece or creating perfection, or even just creating a great piece that you can show off, I want to highly encourage you to start setting specific objectives. Like, what is the actual point of the piece? What are you trying to improve on or hone? And start actually giving importance to the art creation process, because this is where the growth comes and this is where you find yourself as an artist. Sharing a great artwork with other people is great, but honestly, it's just the icing on the cake. And creating great art is just a byproduct and something that naturally and organically happens if you focus on honing and improving your process. So how do you actually do this though? How can you start reflecting on your process and honing it? Here are my 3 practical tips that are going to help you do just this. Tip number 1 is to start documenting your current process. Even if you do things differently from piece to piece right now, start actually analyzing what you're doing along the way. Again, in these 3 major phases of every art creation process: in the planning prep phase, in the production phase, and lastly, in the self-evaluation phase at the end. What are you doing in these 3 phases in your art creation process that you're already enjoying the results of? What are you not enjoying? What things are happening that are leading to results that you don't like, that you want to avoid in the future? What are those steps or actions or tools or techniques that you find yourself coming back to again and again? And I want you to think of the actions, the tools, the techniques that you find yourself unconsciously, without thinking about it, coming back to again and again, versus the things that you actually have to remind yourself to do along the way in order to arrive at the results that you're after. Because usually an art making process involves 2 kinds of actions. Actions that you are taking subconsciously without even thinking about it, and actions that you're actually strategically and mindfully bringing in. When you do those enough, they become part of those things that you do subconsciously. But give thought to both in the beginning so that you can actually learn yourself and know yourself. Some things you're already doing well and you want to continue doing, and other things are just not working and you want to stop doing. Before moving on to setting new goals, new objectives, and starting to implement new things into your practice, I want you to focus on reflecting on what is happening right now in your practice, so that you have a solid understanding of where you're starting from. Moving on to tip number 2, and this one is, before starting a new piece, whether it's a smaller study or a larger piece or a full series of paintings that you're working on, establish an objective. What are you trying to create? Or what are you trying to study and improve on? Once you have a specific objective, you can more easily create a step-by-step strategy for yourself. And make sure that that strategy just has a few steps, and that each step allows for flexibility and discovery along the way. It is not about setting 30 super rigid steps. It's just about having a loose strategy that is going to help you move forward with greater ease and is going to remind you of specific things that you want to make sure to bring in. And tip number 3 is going to be to learn from other artists' processes. And I want you to not only look at the work of living artists who are sharing their work today, but also look back in history and do some research to learn more about the artists that you are drawn to. See if you can find information on where they got their inspiration, how they use their materials. This can really give you a greater understanding of what goes into the creation of every single piece, and also at a more macro level, what developing your style and voice really involves. I think that nowadays, because we're such a success results oriented society and we want those results so quick, we as artists sometimes forget that there's a lot that goes behind our development and the time that creating great art actually takes. And this tends to really hinder us as artists because we tend to set aside or ignore important parts of the process or of our learning that are really going to be those things that propel us forward and allow us to reach the level that we have it in us to reach. In my opinion, especially when you're just getting started on your art journey and you're just starting to develop your skills and hone your voice, quantity is more important than quality. As you move forward, you can prioritize quality more and spend more time on pieces. But in the beginning, it's going through that process of creating something over and over and over again that you're going to be able to find your own way of doing things much faster. And knowing your process is what's going to lead to higher quality results. If you have any questions on anything, make sure to leave them down below in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Enjoy your art practice and see you very, very soon.